Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for being here. Thursday, September 11th. Never forget. Now, your Jacksonville Jaguars, they are heading to Cincinnati this weekend to take on the Bengals. A battle of two AFC 1-0 teams. The Jaguars and the Bengals kick off at 1 p.m. on Sunday. Y'all know what that means. It's time for our Jaguars versus Bengal Week 2 preview, our second preview of the 2025 season. No longer the Taylor Bowl, as Press Taylor's no longer in Jacksonville, but we do have two former Sean McVay offensive coordinators as head coaches, Zach Taylor for the Bengals, Liam Cohen for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Two former number one picks at quarterback, Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow, ever heard of them? And for the second straight week, a battle of the big cats. Jaguars and Bengals. Speaking of big cats, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Brian Thomas Jr., Mason Smith, lots of Bayou Bengals could have an impact in this one, but will Mason Smith even see the field? Former second-round pick by the Jaguars in 2024 was inactive last Sunday. The Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence are 0-2 against the Cincinnati Bengals, and Lawrence is 0-3 going head-to-head with Joe Burrow going back to the college football playoffs. The Bengals are 3.5-point home favorites, over under of 48.5, so an implied score would be like 26-23, 25-22, something in that range. The Jaguars offense did get off to an impressive start in the Liam Cohen era, putting up over 200 yards on the ground. Travis Etienne ran wild last week. Over 140 yards, had a 71-yard scamper. Even you take away the 71-yard run, Travis Etienne averaged 4.8 yards per carry, made a lot of guys miss. He looked like vintage Travis Etienne. And he also had an impact in the passing game. And you saw a couple young runners do well enough for the Jaguars to decide to move on from Tank Bigsby, pick up a couple of day 3 picks in the process. And now you're going to see more Bashal Tutin, more LeQuint Allen in this upcoming game. The Jaguars also scored 26 points in this first game of the season against the Carolina Panthers in week 1, and they didn't give up a sack. Now, in not giving up a sack, they did have several holding penalties, but you would rather have the 10-yard penalty than get your quarterback killed in the backfield. Still, not allowing a sack and not allowing a whole lot of pressure in week 1 was a very good start for the Jaguars offensive line and for the Liam Cohen-led Jacksonville Jaguars offense. Of course, Grant Udinski deserves some credit as well. The Jaguars offensive coordinator is not their play caller. That goes to head coach Liam Cohen. The defense did their part too for the Jaguars, holding the Panthers to just 10 points while forcing 3 turnovers, almost half the team's total from the entire 2024 campaign. 3 turnovers forced for the Jaguars. I think they only forced 8 or 9 last year. So the Jaguars got off to a very good start forcing turnovers. The Bengals, they're also 1-0. Hard-fought victory over division rival, the Cleveland Browns. The Browns always bring a tough, aggressive, talented defense to the table. And, you know, they did have Joe Flacco back there once again for the second go-round with the Browns as their starting quarterback. But Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Chase Brown, and all the ancillary pieces, you talk about Noah Fant, Mike Gesicki, some of the other backup receivers. These comprise one of the most dangerous and talented offenses in the NFL, bar none. Joe Burrow, a top 3 quarterback in the league right now, maybe top 4 at worst, right? Jamar Chase, one of the top 2 receivers in football. T. Higgins, probably the best wide receiver 2 in football. He could definitely be a wide receiver 1 a lot of other places. Chase Brown is a really nice addition to this offense over the last couple years at running back. He provides speed, quickness, and he has a multifaceted game really as a really good pass catcher out of the backfield and a strong runner too. So they've got a lot of talent for the Jaguars to have to deal with. They have a lot of experience together in this system, especially Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Trevor Lawrence has some experience with T. Higgins as well, but they'll be on opposite sides in this one. But the Jaguars' new look defense under Anthony Campanile, it looks fast, causes confusion with creative looks up front and in the back end, appears ready for the challenge ahead, right? Like the Jaguars' defense, it was incredibly complex, And we didn't know exactly what the Jaguars defense would look like heading in to week 1 of the regular season because we hadn't seen Anthony Campanile call plays on defense for an NFL team. He's worked under guys like Jeff Hafley, guys like Brian Flores, Vic Fangio, a lot of different influences. How was it going to come together? I think you saw a lot of Brian Flores influence from Anthony Campanile in his first game. You didn't know where pressures were coming from. You'd show pressure on one side, drop all that pressure out, have guys coming from the other side. And you also saw plenty of changing of the picture on the back end and coverage post-snap. So it was a creative, confusing defense in week 1. Will it continue to look that way in week 2 against a much more talented opponent? I wouldn't necessarily say the Bengals are a more complex opponent from a scheme standpoint on the offensive side of the ball. They don't need to be when they have stars like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. They don't need to overcomplicate things. They can usually just beat you straight up. Will that be enough against the Jaguars defense? We're going to find out on Sunday. On defense for the Bengals, Trey Hendrickson is back in the building and he leads the way. Rookie edge Shamar Stewart had an impressive debut as well. He was able to generate 3 pressures, get a couple of pass deflections at the line of scrimmage. So they have a disruptive group of their own on the defensive side of the ball at edge. And new defensive coordinator Al Golden is in his first year as the Bengals DC and his first year in the NFL as a defensive coordinator, period. He's spent a lot of time in college. He's been a position coach in the NFL before, has never called games at this level until last week. And they looked pretty buttoned up against the Browns offense. I don't think that you would sit here and say that they looked complex. But again, maybe they feel they have the talent up front with Shamar Stewart and Trey Hendrickson, and at linebacker with Logan Wilson and rookie Demetrius Knight, who they spent a pretty penny on in the draft this year. Both hard hitters who play very fast at the second level. On the back end, you have DJ Turner and Dax Hill, 2 former Michigan men. They appear to be hitting their stride in the NFL. And Al Golden was tasked with simplifying the defense a little bit. They moved on from Lou Anarumo, their longtime defensive coordinator in the offseason. He was a great game plan defensive coordinator, but there were some complex ideas week to week that maybe some of the younger Bengals back-end players struggled with, quite frankly. So that's an interesting kind of foil. Bringing in Al Golden, wants his guys to just play faster, play smarter. It's not going to be a completely vanilla defense, but you're not going to see as much week-to-week game planning, in my opinion, from an Al Golden defense as you are a Lou Anarumo defense. Penalties could be a major factor, as the Jaguars racked up almost 100 penalty yards and had double-digit penalties in week 1, while the Bengals had just over 30 penalty yards themselves. So if the Jaguars cannot get out of their own way, especially on the offensive side of the ball, it could be difficult to get points against this Bengals defense. Playing on the road against an AFC North foe is never an easy task. Trevor Lawrence is looking for his first win against Joe Burrow at any level. In order to get that win, the Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. connection is going to have to heat up on Sunday. These two struggled with their chemistry in week 1 against the Panthers. Brian Thomas Jr. finished with just 1 catch on 7 targets. He did find the end zone on a reverse, so that was good confidence boost for Brian Thomas Jr. But for the Jaguars all season to reach their peak, to reach their ceiling, Lawrence and Thomas have got to get it going, and they got to get it going in week 2 against the Cincinnati Bengals if the Jaguars are going to win this football game. You may also need to see more Travis Hunter on the defensive side of the ball. Only 6 reps on defense against the Panthers in week 1. If the Jaguars are going to stop this high-powered Cincinnati Bengals offense, they could need to see Travis Hunter take more snaps at cornerback. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.